Yes, massive NBA news broke out yesterday. Yes, I was alive. Unfortunately, I was incredibly sick and I did not cover it. A lot of you might be wondering why I'm wearing a basketball jersey. Well, I wore a football jersey in the previous video, so I said, fuck it, I'll wear my basketball jersey this one. Um, all right. So, where we are currently, and no, I will not be covering literally anything that happened in the NBA drafts. I am not qualified, nor am I knowledgeable enough in any of that to cover it. So I won't, no coverage of the draft ever. Not gonna happen. All right. The first move we're covering, and then we'll be moving all the way up from the Shams timeline. So just, if you think Shams covers this better than me, you're probably wrong. But this is where I'm getting my sources from. All right, Lakers, Austin Reeves signing a $185 million contract for 4 years. That is around $47 million season. It actually comes out to 46.25 a season. This is a steal for the Lakers for a multitude of reasons. One, it's the max amount of money they could offer him, but this is good news for them because they did not have to pay the All-NBA tax or the All-Star tax because Austin Reeves has made none of those teams so far. This is good for the Lakers because this contract will have a lot more value in the future if they have to ever get off of this trade or if this does not work in the Luka era. This is going to be a very good trade, a very good trading piece if they ever have to. Two, more importantly, this is finally solidifies. They are moving into the Luka Doncic era. They are done with LeBron James. Unless LeBron comes back on a vet minimum and tries to sell the TV rights for his retirement tour and all that stuff, that is LA news is over with. Also, if he planned to do that, I feel like we would have heard it by now. I'm not even sure this is exactly LeBron's last season, so the Lakers are probably not the team that he'll be with next season. Which is crazy because as far as longest consecutive tenure of places that he's been, this is the longest he's ever been with a singular team. LeBron has been with the Lakers since 2019. We're rolling in on 7 years. 7 years straight is the longest LeBron has literally ever been with any team. So there's a couple of options LeBron could be doing and where he could be going. He could be doing the unction thing like everyone's been predicting, like, oh, let's just send him to, let's go to Golden State. Let's go back home to Cleveland. I don't know. Someone predicted that he could go to the Spurs and be some mentorship for Wemby or something. I don't know, dog. The Miami thing is probably definitely out of the picture. I mean, it would be pretty cool for him to go back to Miami, I guess, for a season, but yeah, that's that. I had a lot of more thoughts about this previously in days prior, but I feel like there's more news to cover, so there's less need to talk about just Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is an amazing player. He's better than literally every single player, with the sole exception of Tyrese Maxey that was on the All-NBA team. And before anyone says anything, yes, I've done my research, I've done my homework. A lot of those guys either fell off in the playoffs. Chet Holmgrens of the world, the Jalen Dorans of the world, the Jalen Johnsons of the world, which I think he was better than Jalen Johnson, just period. Before any of this happened, and yes, Jalen Johnson had a great season playing for Atlanta, but I'm going to be honest, the things that I saw from him in the postseason were very disappointing. And before anyone says, well, Austin wasn't great against Houston, Austin was fucking injured. And then Austin played against the defending champions, where he was still injured. Jamal Murray was not injured. Jalen Johnson was not injured. Jalen Duren was not injured. Chet Holmgren was not injured. They just shit the bed. Okay, moving on. Honestly, you could have some conversations because of how much better he's than a lot of those All-NBA third guys that he could be All-NBA second team if the pace that continued from the beginning of the season continued onwards. And again, he did have an injury, so there's that, but yeah. Also, his role is pretty much constantly changing. Is he the second option on the team? Is he the third option on the team? Now he's solidified his part as a second option. And yeah, he's had first option chops too at certain important times of the season. This is a trade that I was found baffling the day it happened, and I still really don't find much enjoyment in this trade. I think it's a very weird trade, and it doesn't make a lot of sense for me. The Detroit Pistons are trading Isaiah Stewart to Memphis. For Memphis, welcome back, Zach Randolph. For Detroit, 3 round picks. Okay, like I feel like that's appropriate value for Isaiah Stewart, but not appropriate value for Isaiah Stewart for the Detroit Pistons. He fit your team incredibly well and was another defensive-minded center that also did a lot of the dirty work and the other stuff. He did not, even though he does get technicals a lot, he does not get those in the postseason. he actually is very self-controlled and calm in the postseason. I think having him with JB Bickerstaff just made a lot of sense. And also he fits the team pretty well. He's also shown his ability to stretch the floor a little bit more often. He's a lob threat. He's also their second best center. And with Jalen Duren's future being like weird right now and nebulous state at this point, also because he played awful in the playoffs, and you could genuinely argue that Isaiah Stewart, despite the production, just played better than him. So I don't like this trade. I really don't, because Isaiah Stewart's not old. He fits the Pistons timeline incredibly well. He's 25 years old. For those wondering, that's like really close in age to the rest of the guys on the team. I hate this move actually. We're gonna get to another move that I hate for a certain other team pretty soon, but yeah, I don't like this move like at all. All right. Anyway, we're just gonna ignore that. Al Horford is returning to the Golden State Warriors for a $7 million a season contract. 14 mil. He's 40 years old. Has been playing 20 seasons. What does this do for Golden State? Yes, obviously Al Horford was pretty good for them. Al Horford doesn't really have a lot of options going around the league, considering he's fucking 40. He does space the floor well, and his defense is, I would say, a positive. I wouldn't say like great, but I wouldn't say it's negative. It's certainly a positive for this team. His spacing is also really good. Al Horford showed a lot, like that he still got a little bit more in the tank for Al Horford levels, but like this does not move the needle in any way for Golden State. I do not think this is a good idea. To be quite honest, I've been saying for years that they should have blown this up. Really, realistically, considering the way that they went around this team and the fact that they were in the Unction era in the first place, that just proves to me that back in the day that you did not really care about those draft picks in the first place, and that you should have traded them to do something else to capitalize on Stephen Curry's window. And you have brutally failed Stephen Curry, and not just Steph, Draymond as well. And now you're in an era where you have to pay Jimmy Butler, whose ACL is completely gone. So... And that's because, and another thing, you're giving Jimmy Butler $60 million a season to not play right now. Respectfully, this sucks ass. Like there's no going around it. Like this just sucks. I really hate this actually. The Warriors are not going to be in serious talks either, and the Western Conference teams are just going to get better and better. Especially those other teams. Yeah, they got a lottery pick. That's something. That could be something, I guess. But like again, not high enough in the lottery to be like generationally changing. This is a very good draft class, though, from what I hear. All right, let's talk about the move that everyone's here to hear about. I did not cover it first because A, there were other stuff in the video, and B, I wanted to cover it every move step by step through a timeline and stuff like that. But like, hey. Here we are. We are at the point of the video where I tell you about the Charlotte Hornets making one of the most baffling trades in the NBA. I did, when I initially covered the trade in a previous recording, I did not really comprehend how baffling of a decision this was. I thought it was weird that Charlotte would want to trade him not even a season after they finally started showing signs of improvement. They had a nice rookie in Con Knipple. Brandon Miller's another young player. I thought that LaMelo, considering his playmaking chops, could actually make this team turn around. Yes, he is awkward. He's got some defensive issues. His playmaking is questionable at some times. But they desperately needed a player that's LaMelo. LaMelo was definitively one of the most positive players on this team as far as being active and helpful for this team. And when he was healthy, which is I get it, it's a big if. I mean, he's got the ankle injuries, and it's certainly not helping that he's also one of the worst drivers of all time, so there's that. But yeah, I don't understand why you would trade LaMelo if he has trade value still to the Timberwolves. Not only are you trading him to the Timberwolves, you're trading him to the Timberwolves for draft picks that can pretty much, look at these draft picks, right? These are all picks, swaps. They're not additions to the draft pool that they're going to have. They're pick swaps. They're pick swaps in 2028, So next season is going to be, the end of the season will be 2027, right? You're not getting that one. Okay, cool. 2029. Cool, okay, all right. And then 2030. And then second round pick swaps in 2029, 2032, and 2033. The second round picks, whatever, they're nothing. There have been a lot of those moved around the league, and I'm sorry, the second round picks mean nothing to me. Like, they don't do anything. You're not gonna find these gems and stuff that are really gonna fill out the rest of your team for second round picks. I don't understand these. They're worthless in my opinion. First round picks are everything. And two, so you got swaps. These swaps are probably not going to convey anything. You're probably going to be the worst of the two teams with those picks. So cool, you were maintaining your pick. So what exactly was the point of that? And then B, you traded for Naz Reid, which is a role player. A solid starter, yes, but a role player nonetheless. He's not going to move the needle for this team forward. You needed playmaking, and you had the playmaking on the roster. So why trade LaMelo Ball? I'll tell you why you trade LaMelo Ball in this situation. I did say it in the previous recording, but I think other NBA YouTubers have been pretty positive in talking about what they had done in the second half of the season. You did all of that shit in the second half of the season, right? It was not enough. Khan led the league in threes. LaMelo led the league in threes. It was not enough. Miles Bridges is not going to get any better. It was not enough. You now have Giannis in your division, a team that you're going to have to meet at least 4 times a season. You now have the Orlando Magic with a new head coach. And Franz will probably be healthy this season, and that was the best team in the division last year. Cool. The Washington Wizards are also making significant improvements on their roster. They have AJ DeBata, who is a young prospect that'll be better in a couple of years, true, yes, but they have Anthony Davis and Trae Young. They're trying to do something right now. Trae Johnson is a solid enough role player to get something done right now. If Justin Champagnie is anything like Julian Champagnie, that is a lot of spacing. That's something that could be worked on. That is something. What are you, the Hornets, coping with? Yeah, we played the best second half of the season that any team played, and we didn't make the playoffs. Yeah, we lost to Orlando with probably a worse coach last year. And more importantly, not only were we embarrassed in that game, we barely beat the Heat last year. We barely beat the Heat, and now they have Giannis on them. I understand wanting to move in a different direction. I do not understand the value that you got from LaMelo Ball unless there are significant injury concerns that are not going to help him pass his physical, which means he's probably going to be right back on his team. For Timberwolves fans, I know Naz Reid is a fucking favorite. I love Naz Reid. I think Ant loves Naz Reid. I think the most important thing on your team, though, is keeping Anthony Edwards, because you lost Aaron Wiggins, he became a champion. You lost Karl-Anthony Towns, he became a champion. Anthony Edwards is probably thinking the same thing, and those are just the players that are recent enough where he's seen them around the organization and stuff. That's not mentioning that, D'Lo came close to winning a fucking championship. He's been on this team multiple times. Fucking Kevin Garnett won a championship. Kevin Love won a championship. Now, I don't think is by any means a basketball savant. He loves the all-time greats, but I don't think he gives a fuck about their history, really. But I think that is something that's probably in the back of his mind. Hey, I just was playing with Kat, and then you guys traded him to the New York Knicks, and they fucking won. That's in my mind. I'd be thinking about that, especially consider how competitive Ant is. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think this is I don't think this is the world's greatest fit. Yes, LaMelo is 6'7", and he's really tall, right, in comparison. And I think he's even taller than Ant. The matchups are probably still going to be this. You're probably still going to put Ant on the point guard. You're going to have to put Ant on the point guard, the opposing team's best point guard, right? You're probably going to have to put LaMelo on the shooting guard, because the shooting guard position is not quite as good as the point guard position, and they're also going to be responsible for ball handling a lot more. That switch is still going to be kind of nasty. And then, yes, LaMelo and Rudy Gobert. This finally unlocks a little bit of offensive potential from Rudy Gobert. A lot of the team has been ignoring him offensively, which means when you're defending him, you really don't got to acknowledge him at all unless he's damn near wide open. So this helps a lot with Rudy, getting him some more playmaking around him. Yeah, that helps a lot. Very similar thing to what we saw with him and Mike Conley in the limited minutes that they were allowed to play together. This will be great for that. And defensively, this will also be great for LaMelo, because he's never had Rudy Gobert on his team. Rudy Gobert is going to be able to clean up for a lot of the mistakes that LaMelo Ball might make. But realistically speaking, this backcourt, I'm concerned a little bit. It's not just the on the court stuff, it's the off the court stuff too, man. Because like, do we want to address the elephant in the room? Is LaMelo the world's most responsible driver? No. Is LaMelo gonna drive better on with icier roads? Probably not. Probably not. The first thing they should be doing right now, not even just the worrying about the PR team, the first thing they should be doing right now is getting somebody to be a designated driver for LaMelo Ball, because I've seen the videos on how he drives in Charlotte. You can't do that in Minnesota, especially not with a certain other type of frozen liquid in there. You know, I wouldn't be doing that. Something weird. It's really. I think it is kind of strange though that the Hornets just gave up on the first like moderately good thing they've had in like so goddamn long. It just makes no sense. Also, poor Eric Carlins, right? I mean, now he's doing more commentary for Prime as well. That helps a lot. He won't have to be just shackled to watching just Hornets games. But this has got to hurt a lot for him. That sucks. Man, Kobe White is getting a deal. By the way, this is something I found appalling, but it was after I had recorded the initial video, but I finally get to talk about it because this is in a separate recording. The way Brian Windhorst covered this trade, please shut the fuck up. I never want to hear from that fat bastard Brian Windhorst ever again, bro. Him and Kendrick Perkins. Now, it has nothing to do with them niggas being fat. Absolutely nothing. It has everything to do with the merits of their arguments. I never want to hear from these niggas ever again on ESPN. They frankly do not know what they're talking about. Brian Windhorst used to be the LeBron buddy guy. Used to know everything LeBron was gonna do, what he's doing. I'm like, oh, I'm talking to his camp. I kind of know what's going on. He has no idea what the fuck he's talking about in this era of basketball. He gave Minnesota a D for this trade. They gave up on just Naz Reid and some pick swaps that are probably not going to mean anything. They're going to maintain their picks basically because they're getting the least favorable of them too anyway, right? They're not losing their picks. They're maintaining those. And then their second round pick swaps are the other ones that are involved in the trade. And all they had to do was give up on Naz Reid, which is a play that most people have been telling them they needed to do for a while. And they got off of Julius Randle scot-free and made room for LaMelo Ball. What exactly could be the problem with that? They also got they gave, and by the way, the reason they didn't have a the 2027 first round pick to give to Charlotte is because they gave it up in the Brooklyn deal. But I'm going to be completely honest, this team is going to be good for the next couple of years. I don't really see the issue. And now they're definitely going to be a lot better because they have, you guessed it, LaMelo Ball. As much as I'm concerned about the X's and O's of this shit on the court, LaMelo fits this team's needs quite well. I don't know, and I don't know how you can tell me with a straight face, the team that traded away their best player, their franchise player, the player that we've been telling them it'll convey eventually, right? There's no way you can tell me they traded that guy away and you gave them a B+ for obtaining Naz Reid after that. How unvaluable do you think LaMelo Ball really is? And I'm saying unvaluable because they gave him a B+. That would imply to you, especially considering he said the acquisition of LaMelo Ball was a D-. That means he thinks that LaMelo is not a positive asset. How bad of an asset do you think LaMelo Ball is? Why do you think this? I'm going to be honest, even if LaMelo is going to have some injury concerns, right? What he potentially unlocks for this team is maintaining, first of all, what he does for this team. This keeps Anthony Edwards on the roster for a couple of years at least, unless LaMelo is completely fucking truly injured, right? And that's a risk they had to take. Because losing him for nothing sucks. Losing a definitive top 5 player in the world when healthy is ass. I'd go as far as saying top 4. He can be that great. It's also much more consistently healthy than a lot of the guys in front of him, to be quite honest. I don't know. Regardless, Charlotte signed Kobe White to a $74 million deal. It's slightly less than $25 million a season. Yes, I know. To return to the Charlotte Hornets. He did play his best basketball for the Charlotte Hornets this year, and that's cool and all, but This is their starting point guard instead of LaMelo Ball right now. They could have just run him and LaMelo together. I don't know. Mark Williams is coming back on a 3-year deal, 3 years, $38 million for the Phoenix Suns. A lot of the things that the Phoenix Suns have done is just giving them more continuity and stuff like that, and I think they can be a better team next year. That being said, are they gonna win anything? No. Are they contenders? No. Are they even a solid playoff team? Probably not. They're probably a play-in team, to be quite honest. Does this mean anything? Does this mean anything going forward? I don't know. It's gonna be pretty hard to win anything when you're paying Devin Booker. Yes, it's just Devin Booker, by the way. It's not like he's not even a top 10 guy in the NBA. He's not even top 10 conversations, to be quite honest. Frankly, I don't even think he's the best. I don't even think he's the third best shooting guard in the league right now. And before you say it, yes, bro, I still have Donovan Mitchell ahead of him. Those conversations are really old. My opinion is set. It's not changing. All right, let's talk about another shooting guard. The Oklahoma City Thunder are trading Isaiah Joe to the Detroit Pistons. I had been saying for a while that in that trade, right, realistically speaking, that they needed a shooter. I thought that they lost Tim Hardaway Jr. for absolutely nothing, and it was stupid and baffling, really. Yes, it was because of an NBA gambling scandal, but the scandal turned out to be not true, so they lost him for, like, fuck all, and they were still paying that shit in the cap. What the fuck? Right? That's something. So, having another shooter on the team basically is exactly the thing what I was predicting, and they're saying they really, really desperately needed. They got it! Good for them. They got the shooter they needed. You still lost Isaiah Stewart for absolutely nothing, in my opinion. V. Stu was a great player for this team in the past years. I don't know why you lost him for absolutely nothing, but hey, you got Isaiah Joe, right? This is not enough. Yeah, they needed shooting. Yes, they have Duncan Robinson on the roster. That is shooting. Okay, cool. Isaiah Joe, Duncan Robinson. Yeah, cool. You're not gonna start those two together, are you? Probably not. Okay, so you can't start those two together, right? And I'm looking at your bench. It got weaker by losing Isaiah Stewart. Tobias Harris is probably not going to play at the exact same peak and leverage his abilities the exact same way that he did in the previous year in the postseason, all the way up until Game 7. Cool. Cade Cunningham is still gonna have to play even better, and we're gonna have to see even better shooting splits for him to realistically be taken seriously in any of these top 5 in the world conversations, right? Understandably so. Cool. Cade is gonna also have to take a leap defensively. I don't know. Cade is not Anthony Edwards. A lot of players are Anthony Edwards, and I say this because Anthony Edwards has grown literally every single year that we've seen him to be better at every single thing. Every single thing on the basketball court, Anthony's been better. In the beginning, he was not the world's greatest defender. He got better at that. He wasn't always a great shooter, I'll tell you that. He wasn't in the conversation of being such a good shooter that he's in the same conversation as Stephen fucking Curry as far as the numbers and volume. Yes, we know the difficult, and also Ant doesn't take non-difficult threes. So honestly, yes, you could have them in the same conversations of being the type of shooter. He actually, in him and Dame, is like really. It's really close, I'm not gonna lie, as far as shooting the fucking basketball in game. I guess out of game, you could say Dame is a better shooter, but hell, I ain't seen that shit in a minute. By the way, did I talk about that? I think I talked about it in the last video. They are getting, speaking of Minnesota Timberwolves, a former assistant from them is becoming the guy for the Portland job because they lost out on Tiago Splitter because their owner tried to lowball him and not pay him what standard head coaches even make in the league. So yeah, there's that. I found that disgusting, but hey, that's going on. I think that's everything. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think there's any more moves to talk about. The Suns are basically staying packed. The Charlotte Hornets made a really weird and awkward trade that kind of makes sense on paper, but not for the value that they got back for him. Golden State is still going to suck ass no matter what they do, to be quite honest, unless they add another player to the roster that they, quite frankly, probably cannot afford, and that player would still have to be LeBron James. That being said, that would not be enough of an asset to make them go anywhere. Detroit lost out on Isaiah Stewart for basically fuck all, in my opinion, and he fits their team really well, and I don't know why they did that. They did gain Isaiah Joe, so that's something. LaMelo Ball is going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. That is a very interesting acquisition. I did not cover the Giannis. I covered the Giannis move in a different video, but nobody watched that. So if you did not see anything from me talking about the coverage of Giannis in the trade and what I really had thoughts about that and how I feel about that trade for Milwaukee, please watch that previous video. All that being said, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to upload this almost as quickly as I possibly can. Again, all of the moves that I've been talking about are verified by Shams. And yeah, love you guys. Bye.